Good evening again. I'd like to call the committee of the whole for the Village of Cary for April 7th, 2026 to order with roll call, please.
Collier.
Here.
Dudek. Here. McAlpine.
Here.
Persina.
Here.
Stefani.
Here.
Walworth.
Here.
Kownick.
I am here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now moving to the public comments, where the public is invited, given an opportunity to address the committee of the whole about issues not otherwise on the agenda. And if so, we ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. I have 3 people signed in. Is this all regarding the traffic calming, or you have something else to say? Okay, so we'll call you up once the presentation is done, if that meets your approval. We'll move to the first item of discussion is regarding New Haven Drive traffic calming improvements. Brian, are you taking this? State your name and address, please.
Chris Reiki, 446 Lloyd Street. I have a question in regards to, what is it, HR Green for the engineering and all the services. Now, when they come and they're doing their blacktopping the street, are they supposed to have somebody present to oversee what they're doing?
HR Green is our consultant. I'm going to give you a little bit of latitude here. That was the last meeting. That's why we started another one. I'd be happy to talk to you about this offline, but we're already into a different meeting with different topics. So more than happy to address that with you at another time. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. The item for discussion again this evening is a continuation of the discussion the board had back on March 3rd regarding proposed traffic calming improvements to New Haven Drive in association with the Seasons of Cary development. As the board's aware, the extension of New Haven Drive was a part of the approvals for the project, and as part of the conditions of approval, the developer is required to provide some additional traffic calming measures on New Haven Drive as part of the extension of their project. So since the March discussion, we've had some additional conversations with the development team, which is present here this evening as well. They can also answer any questions that the board may have. But I'll be happy to go through what the proposed plan is at this point through the additional slides here, and then happy to have any conversation that the board has regarding those improvements. So the presentation will go essentially from west to east from the Seasons project to Georgetown Drive. So primary conversation that we had the previous meeting, or some of the discussion items we had, was regarding the existing cul-de-sac and potential conversion of that to a traffic circle or roundabout. There were some concerns with that design as previously proposed. So the current design will eliminate the cul-de-sac bulb, but will extend New Haven Drive directly through that. As part of that area, there will be modifications to the existing cul-de-sac bulb so that the curb line would extend directly east-west through the existing area where the cul-de-sac is located at, and the driveway for the townhome, which is just north of that location, would be extended further south to have a longer driveway to access the roadway, but would generally eliminate the cul-de-sac bulb that's currently there today. In addition, that modification, as you can see on the slide, would also extend the bike path that currently exists on the north end of New Haven Drive through that location and connect into a proposed bike path as part of the Seasons project. So actually extend that bike path further west for this area. Additionally, on the south side of the roadway, a sidewalk would be extended again to connect to the Seasons project as well, so you'd have pedestrian access on both the north and south sides of the roadway. Other improvements in this portion of the plan would include a landscape median being added to New Haven Drive on the Seasons Carry project. So as you drive past the last entrance to the development, coming off of 31, there would be a center landscape median that would be there. So you'd have 2 lanes on either side of that median as you enter and exit the Cambria subdivision. That'll have a traffic calming effect by narrowing the roadway for vehicles traveling through that location. Additionally, we will have a new subdivision monument sign added to the entrance to the Cambria subdivision, so identify as you're leaving the Seasons project area that you're entering another subdivision, so identify that the change in land use from that standpoint. Other improvements in this area would include the addition of a crosswalk at Savoy Drive, which is not currently existing today. So there'd be a pedestrian crossing from the south side to the north side, and additional pavement markings throughout the subdivision are proposed that would add parking lanes on the south side of New Haven Drive in this location, a 10-foot parking lane, 11-foot through lane for eastbound traffic, and then a 13-foot through lane for westbound traffic due to the presence of the mailboxes that exist on the north side of the property. It would provide a couple additional feet for individuals that are accessing their mail from that standpoint. Before I move on to the next slide, is there any questions regarding the design for this segment of the roadway?
Curiosity, are we going to, is the Cambria subdivision going to be similar to the ones that we're using throughout the community now?
The design would be to mirror what we're using
Okay.
for subdivision signs in the community,
Okay.
portion of the community, yes. All right, next slide. So this slide here shows, it's a little bit difficult with the aerial behind it. We can see what the proposed improvement would be. On the north end, you can see where the curb line would be extended. There's an existing mailbox kind of in the upper right corner of the existing cul-de-sac bulb. It would extend the existing curb line directly through that intersection. So as you're driving westbound on New Haven Drive, there would be no lateral shift for vehicles driving that way. As you're entering into the subdivision, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the end of the landscape island that would be constructed. So with the addition of the parking lane on the south side of New Haven Drive, as you enter the Cambria subdivision, there would be a somewhat lateral shift to the left for vehicles entering the subdivision. So there's a maneuver they have to make that would help slow traffic entering the subdivision at that location. The next segment of roadway gets closer to the 2 existing parks that are along New Haven Drive, which is the New Haven Park, which is the playground more towards the west of the image here, and then the Hoffman Park property, which is the larger detention basin to the east end of the segment. As proposed, we would be adding 2 at-grade crossings with beacons that could be activated by pedestrians looking to cross those locations. Previously, we discussed potential for raised crosswalks within the subdivision, and as based on the discussion at the last meeting and additional discussion with the fire department and Public Works, we eliminated those raised crosswalks to be at grade only. And also on this slide, the pavement markings would be consistent with the previous segment with the parking lane and the 2 through lanes as well. This slide shows the north-south segment of New Haven Drive. So as you pass Hoffman Park, we would be adding 2 additional crossings for pedestrians. These would just be signed. They would not include flashing beacons for pedestrians. The main reason for that is the parks would have a higher density for crossings, and also by having beacons at every crossing could potentially eliminate the effectiveness of the ones that would have the beacons. So we're only recommending the flashing beacons at the 2 park locations. These 2 crossings would be added between the 2 legs of Mulberry Lane on the south end of that north-south segment, and then also near Avalon Court would be 2 crossings that would be added. Additionally, there are proposals to add 2 radar signs that would also identify the speeds of traffic for motorists driving through the subdivision. Those would be added north of Avalon Drive. or near the southern connection to Collins Drive, I should say. And then additionally, the proposed on-street parking and centerline striping would be continued through this segment as well, consistent with the two previous segments. In the northernmost portion of the subdivision, as previously discussed, we're proposing to add chicanes to have a lateral shift for traffic traveling along the roadway. So there would be 2 chicanes, again, still added, one around the 1380 block of New Haven Drive as you get to the bend where the roadway goes from east to westbound to northbound, southbound. And based on discussion at the March meeting, there was some desire for additional pedestrian crossings in this area. So with the chicanes, they have been designed so that they'll have a crosswalk as part of the design. So it'll be almost a center refuge island for pedestrians crossing the street. They can cross a portion of the roadway and be in the center median before crossing the second half of the roadway to allow traffic to go in either direction. So with the 2 chicanes, it will allow for the parking area to shift from the southbound side of New Haven Drive to the northbound side for the northernmost segment of the subdivision. And then as you get between the Cambria subdivision and the New Haven townhomes by Danbury Drive, the second lateral shift was shifted back to the existing configuration for that portion of the roadway. And additionally, there's an existing speed radar sign that the village installed on New Haven Drive in this location. There would be another another sign that would be added for eastbound traffic as you're driving down New Haven Drive. And then finally, I don't have it on a slide, but there's some additional trailblazing signage would be added on Georgetown Drive for northbound Georgetown traffic to direct vehicles that are traveling north on Georgetown before they get to New Haven Drive to go directly north to Three Oaks Road to access Route 31. And then also there'll be trailblazing signage added at the end of Industrial Drive to encourage traffic to go to the right to access Route 31. So exiting westbound Industrial Drive to turn right to Three Oaks Road to access Route 31 from that standpoint. The next slide shows in more greater detail the proposed chicanes as far as where they'd be located. They would include signage directing traffic around the medians, but you'd see where there's that refuge area in the center of the roadway, so the pedestrians could cross halfway before traveling the rest of the direction. That as proposed, that's the proposed traffic calming measures for the subdivision. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have, and the petitioners are here as well if they can provide additional information for the design if it need be.
Thank you, Brian. Before we open it up to the board, I'd like to call the 3 residents that have a comment. Ginny Palumbo.
Ginny Palumbo. So my thing is, let's stop pretending this is an improvement. This is about improving New Haven. Months ago, I had asked what your motivation was for opening this road, and I got no answer. Now we have one, because you said it yourself, Three Oaks is a failed collector road. That statement made everything clear. This plan is not about the Cambria neighborhood. It's about fixing a traffic problem somewhere else by pushing it into Cambria. The signs you are putting up to direct people to Three Oaks to get to 31 only reinforce that. They feel like a facade for what the goals really are. If you're still directing traffic to Three Oaks, then what is the point of opening New Haven? There isn't one. Keep it closed. You may not be saying it directly, but your actions are. Even the developer stated that they would move forward without opening New Haven. So let's be honest, this is not necessary. It's a choice, and it's a choice being made at the expense of people who live there. Then we hear about 186 parking spaces like this is some kind of benefit. How many spaces are you taking away? Cutting parking to one side of the street is not an upgrade, it's a downgrade. You are forcing residents to park across the street from their own homes. And comparing Cambria to New Haven townhomes is not realistic. They have parking next to their homes, not across the street. And their community is much smaller. It's not the same, and it's not a fair comparison. Picture this, groceries in hand, kids with you, bad weather, limited parking, and now you're crossing a street, you're also trying to turn into a higher traffic roadway. That's not thoughtful planning, that's careless. And for what? This does not meaningfully benefit homeowners. It does not meaningfully benefit Cary. Downtown Cary is not suddenly becoming a destination because of this development. People will continue going to Algonquin and Crystal Lake. That's reality. So what are you gaining here? Because what Cambria is losing is clear. Safety, convenience, and the character of a neighborhood people have invested in for decades. Residents have spoken clearly and consistency, and it does not seem to matter. This feels like a decision that was made long ago, and these meetings are just a formality. That's not leadership, that's disregard. At some point, you have to decide whether you represent the people who live there or a plan you're determined to push through, because right now, it's very clear which one is winning.
Rich Yell.
Evening. Brian, would you be able to pull up, I think it was the map of the north, it was the north map.
This map?
That's exactly it. My only concern, the chicane is a big help when you're coming in from the north and you're going east, but if you're right in the middle there and they're going east to north, what slows them down? Because they come around that corner like 45 miles an hour, and there's nothing, slowing them down coming in north, going east is great, but there's nothing really slowing them down from Collins as you hit that curve to head up towards Georgetown. And that's where we seem to have the real problem, because the pedestrians or even the cars pulling out of the drives can't see these cars, and if they're going too fast, sometimes there's not enough time to react. That's the area of concern that I have with the other safety measures are a big help, but that area, what's going to slow them down?
Well, I think, I appreciate your concerns and your appreciation for what we're doing here. One of the benefits to shrinking the road lanes, it potentially will slow down the traffic because right now it's wide open. People, because you'll be going against with the parking that's along I guess that would be the south side, going to I guess it would be the southwest side. That would be a benefit to slow down the traffic. We're seeing a lot of that when we did that on Decker, Montana. We shrunk the lanes there just like we did on Cimarron. By shrinking the lanes, the traffic is going much slower. You're always going to get the outliers. There's always going to be the people that they're there. But for a majority of what we're trying to do, we believe that by adding the chicane, changing the lanes, it causes people to slow down.
Now, when you mention that, you're narrowing it on the north side. Is it being narrowed from the east side coming up to that curve as well? Or is that still, having the cars on the east side or the south side as it goes on the curb actually is a detriment when you're trying to cross and get to the mailboxes or trying to get out of there, because again, it blocks the view of the traffic that's heading north, heading towards Georgetown.
Well, that's why we're adding some more crosswalks so people can get across the street safely.
Yes, and that was one of the areas that walking around the area. If you look, there's like a triangular part on the southeast part there that literally, if you put a crosswalk, there's also a courtyard directly across the street with a sidewalk, and there's mailboxes on each side. So you're not talking about, but you're talking about where you can put a crosswalk from one courtyard to another. And it's right smack dab in the middle and would slow them down. And that's my concern. My concern isn't the ones coming in this way. I think the chicane's going to help them. My concern is the ones heading out towards Georgetown.
I'll let Community Development Director Simmons answer that for you.
Yeah, so the good questions. From a design standpoint, we looked at where approximate locations for crosswalks could go. The issue with a crosswalk is you need to have a receiving end on both sides of the street. So with where some of the mailboxes are and where the crosswalks are currently for the townhomes, in some cases the opposite side of the street was a driveway for a complex. or for one of the townhome units. So we couldn't have a crosswalk from one side of the street empty into or connect to a driveway. So the locations.
That's why I was looking at that area. I said that triangular part, there's no driveway. And there's an area between the unit that's 500's in front. I think Linda Bennett lives in that one, and 460's next to it. The area directly between the two of them is not a driveway. It's a sidewalk, leads to a courtyard. And you could take that and you could take it directly to that sidewalk, to that courtyard across the street.
Yeah, and that's where the chicane is located at. That's what was designed there from a standpoint. There's a crosswalk into the chicane that extends out from a sidewalk for the existing townhomes. So you can kind of see it where the top of the screen there. And further south off of this, where the match line is for the next sheet of the plan, there is other traffic calming features just south of the curve. There's a crosswalk that will be added. If you go back one slide, Nick, there's a crosswalk that was added near Avalon Court, but then you also have the speed radar signs that are added there as well for traffic that will be heading towards the curve from the south side. But the parking, pavement marking, as mentioned, would be throughout the entire subdivision, so that would be consistent from Georgetown Drive all the way to the end of New Haven Drive is today, where the cul-de-sac is located at. So that pavement marking would be throughout the entire subdivision, so that'll have that calming effect as well for vehicles driving through the neighborhood. But as for spacing of the crosswalks, they're sequentially through the subdivision, so as vehicles are driving through, there wouldn't be a significant number of crosswalks in the area, but they would be situated in locations where individuals would be driving through the subdivision would encounter, where they would expect to encounter pedestrians as well. So that you don't have too many crosswalks and too much signage that would eventually have a negative effect on motorists. If you have too much signage, it's more sign pollution from a standpoint that they start to, if you have too much signage, drivers will stop to recognize those signs. So they've been purposely placed in effect to try to maximize their usage, but also have that traffic calming effect on vehicles driving through the neighborhood.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate your response. I'll make it really quick because this totally off base, but since this, you're aware I have a special needs son, and this is Autism Awareness Month, I did want to mention one thing, actually a couple of things. When we first moved in here, there was an altercation with a neighbor because my son was walking around like he does every garbage day, and she called the police on him. I just wanted to commend, I brought Cam immediately in afterwards because I didn't want him to be afraid of the police department, and he met with Sergeant Mercury, and I just wanted to commend him. He was so great with Cam, the way he handled him, and I also happen to have an autistic grandson. Cam's functioning autistic. My grandson, not so much. He lives, and he's 9 years old, and he decided to take the screen out of his window and run away. Some alert driver on 14 and Three Oaks Road saw him trying to cross the road there, and your officers came out, picked him up, put him in the car, calmly took him back here till my daughter could get over and take him. I just wanted to commend the police department on how well they handled both situations, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Have a good evening.
Sergio.
Good evening. My name is Sergio Sierra, 1464 New Haven Drive. Just want to make a short statement, and then I have a couple of questions that I would like to be responded. The first thing is I just want to state that with this all this project, the city gain basically in revenue, the developer gain getting his light and access to 31 and also access to the core of the township. The police department and the fire department and everyone got access directly from Cary, from our neighborhood into the development, but those that are immediately affected by this project didn't get anything, only troubles. Needed not even the recommendation that the immediate users proposed were addressed, completely ignored. With that said, I have a couple of questions regarding the proposals. And I will start in the same direction that we're talking from west to east about the light in front of New Haven Drive, that passing there. I think it's in the wrong location because people doesn't cross there to go to the park. They come from the sidewalks and they go across New Haven Drive to access the park. The way where it's proposed to be used is completely useless because people's not gonna go into the center of the road and then cross to the park. If, for us who live there, we know how the park is used, how people move, that's not the way people use that park. I agree with the new location for the one at New Haven and of the other part because that's where it should be. Before the city did a crosswalk, but it didn't work. But now where it is located, it is. I agree with that one. The other thing is going up. I think the two chicanes is because of the design. We have to agree on that. I agree. I like the way that the entrance was developed. It's narrowing those two entrance and exit to the subdivision. I think that's a good proposal. Nothing has been said about the connection to Georgetown Drive. When New Haven Drive used to be 2 lanes in and out, the radius for that turn was fine. But when New Haven Drive was split in 3, one coming in, one going to turn left, and one going to turn right, that radius on the north side is absolutely narrow. It needs to be widened no matter what. We're gonna be accidents there because the increase of traffic this shortcut is creating. So why nothing is gonna be done, is not being done there? It's obviously that something should be done. I agree. And the other thing that I want to ask is, why do you have to draw a divider line on the street? This is a neighborhood street, supposedly, right? Once you install median lines, you create the impression that this is a drive-through street. You create the impression that this is a artery. So people naturally tends to go faster because you see it's divided. So this is a speed that has, a road that has more speed. So I believe, I don't understand why the need for that. But there are some other roads in the town, for example, I think it's Alma, the one that goes into the church. It has parking on one side, and it said no parking on the side of the street. That could perfectly done here. If you need to put sign out, show where the parking is, that's fine, but keep it as a neighborhood street. Don't put the median, the divider line, because that increases that, and put signs on the other side saying no parking on this side of the street. I think it will keep that street more neighborhood feeling rather than an artery going through our neighborhood. With that said, thank you so much.
Hey, Brian, did you want to address a couple of those?
As far as the locations for the crossings, for the parks, they were added in locations directly next to the parks. And also they were in a location where it would have an additional traffic calming effect as you're driving through the curves. So they are new crossings. Again, I looked at the existing driveway locations and existing intersections from where current crosswalks or pedestrian access would be, and they were situated in a standpoint where they could provide additional crossing for access to the parks. So it may change the pedestrian traffic flow through the neighborhood with those locations being installed in this case versus what today's traffic would be, but it would provide an identified crossing with pavement markings and lights and signs to help to alert traffic to pedestrians in the area. So it may not be where pedestrians currently cross today, but it might create a safer location for pedestrians to cross in the future. The other question was the center lines, the pavement marking. Again, the additional pavement markings are designed to narrow the roadway as you're driving a vehicle down the roadway. As you narrow the path that a vehicle will drive through, if you feel less comfortable driving on the roadway, whether it's just a narrow roadway or the pavement markings make it feel like it's a narrow roadway, that helps to reduce the volume of speed on the roadway. We've had decent success with that with Georgetown Drive, Cimarron Drive, and other streets in the area where you add the parking lane and the center line striping. It does have a traffic calming effect on vehicle speeds going through the neighborhood. So that's why that pavement marking is proposed, is to help with that mindset to narrow the roadway for vehicles as you're driving through the neighborhood.
And what about the connection with Georgetown Drive, the radius over there?
We discussed it. The proposed no modifications to it as part of the plan. From a standpoint, it does slow vehicles down, making that maneuver as well onto Georgetown Drive. We're not proposing any modifications to that intersection to increase the radius. That would encourage more vehicles to potentially make that maneuver. Based on the study that was provided as part of the development, that maneuver will actually see less traffic going forward, as you'll have more of the traffic from the Cambria subdivision potentially using the connection out to Route 31, so the number of vehicles turning right at that intersection should decrease going forward.
So if the traffic is going to be reduced, why are we talking about calming traffic?
As a recommendation of the approvals for the development to include the traffic calming features for the roadway. So it's the overall roadway, the volumes that are on New Haven Drive will not significantly change with the development. The flow of the vehicles through the subdivision will shift, where right now it's more of a southwest to northeast flow from the back of the Cambria subdivision to Georgetown Drive. With the connection, you'll see that reverse, where most of the neighborhood will be able to access 31 or travel more to the westbound to exit the area. But the traffic calming was a condition for that connection, just to discourage higher traffic speeds through the area.
So I think there's some contradiction there on what it's stating about there. I don't understand. It doesn't make my logic saying that the traffic is going to be diminished, and also the direction of the traffic. There's a pattern that couldn't have been done because currently there is no way to measure that amount of traffic going in that direction, because there's no connection. So there's no way to predict how much people are going to go one direction or the other. It's very difficult to determine that the people who's living in Cambria go out New Haven Drive all the way 3 Oaks Road going down to 31st, because there's no way to track that. So there's no way that that statement can be done, that the traffic is going to be in that direction. So those assumptions for me are not valid, and doesn't make any sense. Something doesn't work on these proposals. I now agree with something that the lady said. It's kind of a forcing some solution just because it's needed, but not because it's really the explanation that we are really giving. We don't know really what it is, but I now have doubts about the transparency of what we have been told and what is the reason, because there are contradictions on the arguments that were being presented on the reasons why these things are being done.
Could you explain what you think the contradictions are? We'll be
For
happy to
example,
address those.
They're saying when we look the turn the radius on Georgetown into New Haven Drive. The argument not to make that radius bigger is because the amount of traffic is going to be reduced.
It will be, because people that live on the west part of Cambria going towards Algonquin, Lake in the Hills, or whatever, will be going out towards Route 31, coming back in through Route 31, going to Savoy or Collins. They're not going to be needing to go to Georgetown. So that's where the traffic will be substantially altered by that, because they won't be having to come to Georgetown. They won't have to go around. You recall, back when we closed Sage Parkway, the biggest outcry that we had from that neighborhood was that you will take you too much time to get to Route 31 if we close that road. We closed the road to accommodate our largest employer, and everybody seemed to get along fine. Now we're going to give direct access to Route 31 in a controlled fashion, listening to what the residents have mentioned, what they like. Now remember, we've had 3 different traffic engineers say we don't really have to do anything. This board took it upon themselves to make sure that we're going to do something to show that we are going to make sure that this is a safe road. It's a collector road. We are going to do what we can to make sure that the traffic flows safely, that residents can get to and from their homes in a safe manner, pedestrians can cross the street. We've added crosswalks. Safer, we're adding the speed signs. we're doing what we think is the direction from the residents that we've had. So there is no contradiction in that. There won't, if you're living at the back end of Cambria right now, you're not going to be going around Route 31 to Three Oaks to Georgetown to New Haven. You're going to go out to Route 31, eliminating that traffic at Georgetown and New Haven.
Yeah, but all the people who live in Cambria are going to be coming from Route 14 or Three Oaks Road. They are going to still come on into Three Oaks, New Haven Drive in the same fashion. It might be a diminution if people are coming from 31st. Yeah, obviously there's a shortcut that many people that live in Cambria, including me, will use. I can't deny that. But also, there are many people who doesn't live in Cambria that they can take that shortcut as well. So it works in one direction or the other direction. So the argument that the traffic is going to be diminished doesn't make sense, because now you're opening a faucet, which is Route 31st, to go through this subdivision, and another one in Three Oaks Road, in New Haven Drive, and because people can go through there to do the shortcut to avoid the signal on Three Oaks Road and 31st. So they go down that way, because now they will be able to cross 31st with the new signal that was there. So it's a shortcut. So traffic is going to increase. I don't know how much, but common sense tells you that if you connect two arteries and you have a shortcut, people is going to go that way. So it's undeniable.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the committee? Come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Kim Bennett, 1438.
Could you wait till you get to the microphone, because these are recorded.
Okay. Kim Bennett, 1438 New Haven Drive. I just have a couple of quick questions and a comment. The chicanes will have landscaping in them, correct?
No, it would.
Oh,
be-
there's no landscaping?
No, and the chicanes, no.
Okay,
I think that would be it would block people's
okay.
views.
The new Cambria sign that would be going in towards the opening, is that going to mirror what is already up now, like on Cimarron?
No. It's, the village board made a decision when we are responsible for replacing signs in our public right-of-way that identify subdivisions, that we're going to do a uniformed sign now. They're all going to match. They're all going to look the same. So we wanted that continuity. The board decided that, and it's the direction that we're going. We've started to replace them already. There's one in Lions Ridge. There's one in Brigadoon. If you want to take a look at what they look like. They're very classic, elegant-looking signs. They're not because yours is kind of a wooden one right now, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, these are
And then
a
you've
little
got
bit.
you've got the brick pillars and the cement spears.
Yeah, they're not gonna. They're not
it's
gonna
not gonna
have
be
that.
like that.
No, they're not. This will be conformed to what the village decided they want to do. Pardon me? Yeah, it's all going to be uniform throughout the entire village.
But it won't be uniform with the other two Cambria signs that are up.
We haven't had that discussion.
Okay,
Can't-
okay. Then I guess my last thing is just a comment. I agree with the gentleman that just spoke in that, it would really be nice to have it look as much like a residential street as possible. I understand what you're saying, that it's going to become a connector road, but, if you look at Cimarron, Georgetown, even Three Oaks, none of those places have chicanes. We would be the only street that I know of in the middle of a subdivision in a residential neighborhood that would have chicanes. So I would just ask that whatever you can do to keep it looking more like a residential street would be appreciated. I don't know if you can just do one chicane. I mean, I would prefer to have 0 chicanes, but if you could just keep it to 1, or keep them maybe they're smaller and not as not as aggressive looking, just anything to keep it more as residential.
We're trying everything that we can to make sure that we're accommodating this. Remember, we don't have to do anything. We could leave the road exactly the way it is. All the traffic engineers have said that the road could be fine the way it is.
I think that would be great, personally.
Well, no, but you do. But there's other
I
people.
know.
We have to make the best out of the situation that is here right now. We are going to the chicanes. It looks daunting here right now. We've driven. They have them in Algonquin. They have them all over. You don't really notice that you're going through them. you notice that you have to make a slight diversion, so you're going to slow down. This is a good way to maintain that residential. We've got, I'm all about the pedestrian refuge. I fought for one on Route 14 for years when we built our new train station. I wanted a pedestrian refuge going from Borden over there. And the state said no, they wouldn't do that. These are really good ways to keep the public safe when they're crossing a street. And, addressing the concern that was made that people don't cross there, change is difficult. But once you notice that these are for public safety, people will end up using those in the right way. We have a very competent police department that will do directed patrols. With this budget we just passed tonight, we're purchasing a software program that can identify all of the traffic needs we have in the entire village. We'll be able to tell you how many cars are going on every one of the streets, every block. We could tell what the speed is, how many cars are going there per hour. These are things that we're going to work to make sure that we are offering the safest, not just in Cambria, not just on New Haven, but all of our streets in the village. This is something we take very seriously. Public safety is our number one concern, and this is why we're going to address it this way. And if I remember correctly, when you came to open house, you wanted a new entryway sign. You wanted a new sign for your subdivision. We got that for you.
Well, I wanted it to match the development sign, that, when you come into New Haven and when you come in by Cimarron, because that's our sign. That's our, that says that this is our development Cambria, not a sign that looks completely different than that.
Okay, well, that's something that we can look at. I'm not making any promises or guarantees, but this is the first time I'm hearing about that. So, we'll talk about that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Sure. Chris, Chris, can you sit down for 1 second? Let this young lady, you've already had a couple times. You had a comment? Yes.
Sorry, the young lady threw me off. Can we go back to the cul-de-sac?
Sure.
So this to me is kind of confusing. I don't know if maybe the markup is not done on it. You said getting rid of the cul-de-sac, the bulb of the cul-de-sac. Oh, sorry, Susan Clark, 1582 New Haven Drive. So is the actual road for the driveways, is that going away?
If you can, Brian, do you want to address this?
Yeah, I try to walk through. So as you're looking at the image on the north side of kind of going right through the middle of the existing cul-de-sac, there's that gray line that goes across there. That's the bike path extension that would be going from the existing bike path on the north end. And then just below that, you can see there's two black lines. That's the curb that would be constructed on the north end there. So the curb for the existing roadway would extend east-west, basically cutting the bottom third of the cul-de-sac in, so you'd have a straight roadway going through that location. And then the north end of that curve, the cul-de-sac bulb would be removed. The existing driveway would be extended further, so you'd have direct access for those units to New Haven Drive, but then most of the area that currently is the cul-de-sac bulb would become landscaped. So it'd be a green area on the north end on that standpoint. So you can see the lines that are added here are the proposed improvements, but the cul-de-sac bulb would be basically cut in half, and there would be more landscape in this area, but it would be a through direct movement. There would be no lateral shifting for vehicles traveling through that area.
So who would be responsible for that new landscaping?
That would be within the still dedicated right-of-way, so that would be something that we'd work with either the village responsible for mowing, or we work with the HOA for maintaining that area.
Yeah, I am the HOA. That's why I'm asking.
Right.
Are we going to be responsible for that then?
It would be similar to the parkways within the neighborhood next to a townhome project. So it would be the parkway in that location would be just a little bit wider than it is currently today. So it would be likely HOA responsibility for mowing purposes.
Okay, it's a little deceptive to look at it because you just see the drives going in, but the two outer drives are to front-facing units. So those people drive inward.
Correct. There's
So they're going to have to back out of their driveways into the circle area as other people are driving out there into this narrowed area?
It would be slightly different than other townhomes in the project. So right now, they currently have that depth for the driveways that access the northern portion of the cul-de-sac bulb. The driveway length would be extended further, so you'd have more driveway for maneuvers. So if you're backing out of one of those driveways, you still would have a large driveway area that they could maneuver on the property before accessing the right-of-way. So they can do basically a 3-point turnaround on the private property before accessing the roadway.
Yeah, they're doing it into traffic that's pulling out, though, just FYI. This new proposed driveway lengthening, which is actually a pretty big amount of asphalt to be putting in, who's going to be responsible for replacing that?
That would be the HOA or the responsibility for the property. So we would install the improvements, would be the new driveway would be part of the project, but then it would be an improvement that would be responsible for any property owner that has access to a roadway. They're responsible for the driveway and the apron within the right-of-way.
I don't know, that doesn't seem very fair to be adding to our burden of maintaining new landscaping area, maintaining a pretty big chunk of new asphalt. Those driveways were done, I think, 4 years ago, and are due to be blacktopped this next summer. I don't know, you're making a lot of plans for us for things that we can pay for.
The alternative would be to leave the cul-de-sac the way it is.
Which would be better.
Well, we don't think that would be safer. I mean, it's very deceiving when you're looking at this because if there's grass or bushes or something that's in the areas on either side of the proposed new driveway, that would be minimal things to maintain. The additional new driveway would be actually a benefit to New Haven. You're adding more substantial driveway at our cost, the developer's cost, I should say, to make it safer for you to get in, to accommodate the request of not having a cul-de-sac there. And you're also going to be gaining additional parking at the bottom, at the south end of New Haven. You can kind of see where the car is there. There's new parking that'll be dedicated over there as well.
Where this car is?
Where this car is down at the bottom, you can see that there's parking that's going to be there as well. So there'll be additional parking because the person that lived in this house that's at the bottom parks their car over there all the time and asks for parking. So we're going to accommodate some of these requests and add the parking. There'll be ample parking. You got to remember, each one of your units, and I drive through this development all the time. I can pretty much tell you where everything is. But each one of those units has 4 dedicated parking spaces. 4.
We have 2 garage spaces
and 2 driveways. So that's 4 per unit. What the residents choose to do with their driveway is their own business. If they're going to come after us because their garages are full of stuff, not using for the, I get this. I hear this all the time. And I said, well, you know, we are accommodating, we're trying to accommodate you in the best way that we can. So when you're talking about there's not enough parking, there is parking. And when you look at the number of parking spaces per unit throughout your entire development, there is more than ample parking. We're adding some more parking. We're making it more strategically located for what people are looking for.
And every time we have a project that involves not being able to park in your driveway or your garage, then we all park on the street.
Right, but how often does that happen and for how long?
All the time. We are a 25-year-old neighborhood, and there is constant construction.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something that we recognize that's part of it, but there are opportunities to park on the public right-of-way, on our streets during a construction process or a repaving or the seal coating. Because you're not repaving all those, you're just seal coating. That's 2 days. So we are trying to work with you. We understand overwhelmingly people said they don't want a cul-de-sac there. So we're looking at what's the best remedy for the situation.
They don't want a roundabout. Nobody
they-
said getting rid of the cul-de-sac.
Well, the
But
same,
you're
because the round,
increasing our cost quite a bit and left that part out until it was asked that there's going to be landscaping for us to work on. We've got a bunch of new asphalt that's going to be needed to be maintained. We've got cars backing out of 2 driveways into the traffic that's driving out of the middle driveway. We
Mr. Mayor,
didn't
can I
quite get
interject
there.
here? Are we
Yes.
having a discussion? Are we answering questions? Is this
Yeah,
open time? Okay.
let's- yeah.
So we can
Yep.
discuss anything we want. Do we know how many acres you're currently mowing? Do you know how many square foot you're actually plowing when you're talking about snow plowing?
Not off the top of
Okay,
my head, no.
so we don't know what that number is, but yet we can say that there's an egregious amount of work being added to your plate?
It's not the point. Nobody
Okay,
asked
so
us.
what I'm saying is
Nobody
the-
bothered to come to us
when
and
you
extend that
are
courtesy
taking the
when you made a
position-
plan
Excuse me,
for
he's,
us.
excuse me.
When
Let him
you're
have an
taking the
opportunity.
position that we're adding, in your words, an undue burden on you, I would say that that's not true.
If it's not
I would
undue,
say
then you
that's
guys
not
should pay
true
for it.
because it's about 1%. We're paying to have it constructed. The developer's paying to have it
The
constructed.
developer's paying to have it.
They're paying to
constructed.
have it constructed. I don't believe that your undue burden of adding this grass and asphalt is going to amount to more than 0.1%, maybe 0.5% of your total.
Then the village should maintain it, if it's not that much. I mean, you've taken away our parking. We park in that entire cul-de-sac right now. We have maybe 3, 4 cars could park there. And then you're going down to the next street because the opposite side of the street has no parking on it anymore. So you're going all the way from these cars over here and maybe 3 or 4 cars here to walk all the way to our places. You don't live there. You can say, you're making a
You're
mountain out
correct.
of a molehill. but
And we've heard this from
You don't
every
live
single
there.
person that comes in. We do not live there. We all live in one house. He lives in a house, she lives in a house, I live in a house, in our own neighborhoods. But what we're tasked with is dealing with situations that involve the entire village. I apologize that it's happening in your front yard, but this is something that has passed already, and as somebody noted earlier, we're trying to make the best of it. We're over-engineering all the traffic requirements in here to try to make it as safe as possible. So I hope that we can get some buy-in from the folks who say, yeah, you know what, it's not great, I don't want an outlet, but they have done everything they can to make it as safe as possible. That's our end goal.
May I ask a question of the team? I guess that since the developer's here, you guys are going to have to treat your parking lot ever so often to reseal it, are you not? Is there any way you could potentially pick up this triangle as part of the cost of resealing your parking lot? I don't know how many square feet this is. I don't know how much cost there is to do it. I'm trying to broker a legitimate concern because frankly, nobody has brought this up prior to right now. And I'm not blaming anybody for not bringing it up. I'm just saying it hadn't come
They
up.
seem to know
Yeah.
that the expense will be ours, so
Yeah,
I think it was
I get
discussed
it.
at some point.
No, I totally get it. And I'm just trying to find out how we could possibly address this piece. And if there's maintenance that the owner of the property, the development, has to do on their asphalt to reseal it, could they pick up this piece? I'm just simply asking the question.
Tony DeRosa, 789 North Water Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Good question. Difficult to do in practice. For us to go off-site, we run into challenges of doing work on other people's property, binding our property in the future to do off-site improvements, no matter how big or small, creates a lot of challenges to go on other people's properties and do those types of things.
Anybody have any idea what the cost of sealing this is? Do we know how many square feet it is, even, Brian?
Can we see the overhead, Brian, of the entire project, the entire neighborhood? It's the very first page on the slide deck.
Can we pause for 1 second? Go back to that slide again, sorry. Are we not adding this to village property already, so why does it convey to their property?
Any private driveway that has access through the right-of-way would be the responsibility of the adjacent homeowner. So the driveway that's in the apron, the maintenance of that is the responsibility of the adjacent homeowner. So they have rights to access the right-of-way But this would be an improvement, an extension of their driveway through the right-of-way of the village.
So why not just eliminate that part of it, make the bike path go around it, and just stripe it through the middle of where the striping is now?
The intent of it was to extend the bike path within the existing right-of-way. You can't see it on this image, but the northwest side of the bulb, the right-of-way shrinks so that it's not possible to make the improvement within the existing right-of-way to widen that path. You'd have to go onto private property to make that widening beyond the western side of the cul-de-sac bulb. So part of the conditions of approval were any improvements that were made to the roadway would be within the existing right-of-way.
But the right-of-way changes when we add that apron?
The right-of-way does not change. So with the elimination of the cul-de-sac bulb, the right-of-way would still be present. There's no land transferring between ownership. So the village would still be responsible for that as right-of-way as far as ownership of the property. But the improvement through for the driveway, that's a private improvement that serves the adjacent property. The maintenance of the driveway would be the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. But the physical land ownership would not change as far as who owns the underlying land in the property.
The cul-de-sac is owned by the village now.
Correct.
Are we deeding that triangle to the HOA?
No, it still would be right-of-way. The driveway going through what is the current cul-de-sac bulb would be within the right-of-way.
So
So it'd be within village property right-of-way, but since it provides access to a private property, it's the responsibility of the private property owner to maintain that.
Is that like your driveway from your sidewalk on a
Correct.
private residential to
Correct.
the street?
Those
So the
single-family
curb
home-
is yours
Correct.
responsibility?
Correct. The village, essentially from the sidewalk to the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street, that's village property. Every property throughout this subdivision or any subdivision in the village, driveways have to access the roadway. So there's the paved area of the driveway that's between the sidewalk and the curb. That's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain, but that technically is still village right-of-way or village property.
Thank you.
And another reason it wouldn't probably not be desirable to like deed over or convey or to turn over the right of way to private property is because that would also increase the land area, which has a tax impact for the adjacent property owner. So what we show here is the least difficult manner of giving them access, addressing the concerns that were conveyed about the roundabout option, and still being able to extend the path on the north side of the road at a full width where two people can walk side by side on the existing New Haven path all the way west to the regional trail along Route 31. Obviously, if the desire is to go back to the roundabout option, that would address maybe the concerns we heard today about additional driveway approach, but then we would also then have the challenges of the comments that we heard about the roundabout option with regards to on-street parking, and then it would also be harder for that path to be extended. It would, if I understand right, to stay in the right-of-way, it would go from a 8 to 10 foot wide path and narrow down to a 5 foot wide sidewalk, and then widen back out to an 8 to 10 foot wide path. So there's trade-offs there as well. This option as presented here, like everything apparently, is there's no single solution that has everybody's desires met. This one seemed to meet the most with what we have available.
I'm going to ask a real silly question. Just probably a very ignorant question, but if you just went across, and obviously you're going to have a curb here, looking at the very bottom here, before you start into the driveways, could you not just leave this and have the curb cut, opening here, and leave everything else as is, and just stripe into the driveways, and leave the concrete, leave it? I'm just curious.
Are you saying leave the cul-de-sac bulb, but then have the rest of it just shown? You would not be able to widen the path. So that scenario I just mentioned,
This
it
right
would
here,
go from a
the walk-around.
path to a sidewalk, back to a path. Are there any other constraints, Brian? I think that was the main
I think
one.
it was, again, it's more the design, you're trying to eliminate excess pavement that was not necessary. If you are familiar with where Industrial Drive used to terminate, and then was extended through that area. There still is the cul-de-sac bulb in that location. You do have, it does widen from that standpoint. It was to try to eliminate the excess pavement from that standpoint to have the roadway be continuous through this area. So yes, there are some impacts to the driveway location being extended. That was something we discussed at length as far as what the direct configuration of that would be. But it was to, as proposed, you could leave it, but then at the same point you have that excess pavement there that's out of place as far as how it's utilized and designed for the traffic that's actually going through that area.
And I appreciate what Trustee Dudek brought up about, hey, can they do this, can they do that? But I don't know how any developer would take on that liability to, as they were saying, continue to maintain something after a project is done. So I think we have to try and come up with a solution. You know, what can we do? Is there something else we can do that is going to better meet this, or is this the best that we can come up with?
If the connection for the bike path is gone, we don't need that then? Correct?
If it's,
If the path isn't there, we don't need to extend. We can just go, so eliminate everything on the top there, leave it as it is, but still stripe it through. Straight could be done that way and leave the cul-de-sac?
you could, yeah, I mean, the plan for the project has the bike path still on the north side of New Haven Drive as you're in the Seasons project.
Yeah, yeah.
So it would tie in here, but you just have that, the one piece that you can currently have of sidewalk would remain as is. So you'd have the bike path sidewalk for that northern
And then connect
curb,
back to the,
and then connect back to the bike path, yeah.
It's an option, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
I'm saying, should we be looking at, I don't know what's the best option, if that's something to consider.
I
What do you think, Rick?
really fail to see how that
Yeah.
improves anything, because I've got now two triangle, odd-shaped things that people are just gonna randomly park in. Are we doing extra curbing? Is it a no parking area? Is it a parking spot? You know, are kids gonna ride their bike there in the middle of a street? I understand the concern of you're putting burden onto a property owner to take care of something else. I get that. I think it's such a small fraction that it's worth that infraction, rather than leave this as is and then have to maintain 200 square foot of asphalt that really benefits nobody. So while it may be not the best solution, I think what's proposed is as good and certainly as safe as you can get.
I tend to agree with that, Trustee Walrath. I mean, when you look at what's being proposed here and the amount of new added burden, as they're stating, to the HOA for the lawn, you look at the driveway, that's only going to be, because it's going to be brand-new asphalt. You're not going to replace that for 20 years. Seal-coated every couple of years. It can't be that much more to add for that. By adding the grass, when you look at the new path that they're going to have, and we already have the sidewalks that are going around, that really minimizes the amount of additional new space to be maintained. It's all the public, we're going to maintain the path, we maintain the sidewalks. By doing this, we're trying to come up with the best solution for you. I would totally disagree with leaving it the way it is. That's something that would be unsightly. I wouldn't want that at the beginning of my neighborhood. Nothing good comes from that. You know, we're trying to be solution-based here. We're trying to come up with a way that this could be viewed as a win for Cambria.
Did you say you're going to maintain the sidewalks?
I did. We maintain the sidewalks on our public right-of-way, like the bike path.
You don't maintain that, we do.
The bike path.
Yes.
This new bike path would be maintained by Cambria.
I'm not sure if it's on private property or public property.
Oh.
I don't know.
I was assuming that was on our public property.
That's
Excuse me. Brian?
I thought it was in public right away. I'm not sure where the locations are, but that's something we can look into.
Yeah, well, we'd have to look at it. I think we're going to have to put a pin in this for right this second. Can we take a ride up New Haven and kind of talk about the other things as a board? Can you slide that forward, please, Nick? Thank you. What do you think about as being proposed here?
I think that, I think that gathering the information, the concerns that were brought to our attention, that we're being very proactive with adding some of these crosswalks, the beacons, the striping. I think overall, I like it. I think that we've addressed it, and I think we're being proactive versus reactive. As we said, there's nothing that indicates that there's a need to do this. We're just trying to say we hear concerns. We want to be proactive about it. And you know what? If the traffic doesn't go down, if like one of the residents said, if people don't come through this at all and they're just going to go from the new subdivision, they're never going to come this way, then all we've done is made it a little bit safer for everyone that's currently there. If it does, on the other hand, have additional traffic, we've been proactive in addressing that. And we've, worked with the fire department, the police department to say what's the best, most effective way so that they can get through as safely and quickly as possible. So I think the other ones, I think that they've done a very thoughtful analysis and job of putting this together.
Anybody else comments? Trustee Brazino?
Yeah. Preceding my time on the board, I was in this boardroom a number of times, and just hearing before Seasons was even a thing. Obviously, these traffic calming measures are tied to the Seasons development. However, preceding my time on the board, I was here in the room. I did hear residents suggest that speeding was already a problem. So I do think that this is sort of, there's two elements to this. There was an existing problem that was communicated, and then we have the traffic calming to help mitigate any cut-throughs and just slow everything down. We've got 2 parks. We're going to have the lighted signs, which have proven to be effective. We're adding additional crosswalks. All of these are going to be at grade. I believe that was a direct request. We didn't want to do speed humps. We didn't want to do tables. And the effectiveness of those were in question anyways. So I think that's good for everyone. I do like that a few additional parking spots were added. I understand that the chicanes aren't great, but they are just sort of at the 2 ends of the property. They are not throughout, so I don't think that those are egregious. I do like the fact that they've got the center median with the crosswalk going through them so that you can take a pause there if you need to, tie your shoe, take a look around. The speed signs we'll be adding, is it 1 or 2? I know there's one out there already.
One currently for westbound traffic as you're entering the subdivision. There'll be 3 new signs total that'll be added, 2 for both the northbound, southbound leg of New Haven Drive near Collins Drive, I believe. And then the other one will be similar to the existing location on the northern edge of the subdivision for eastbound traffic.
Thank you. I know we just put some of those in on Decker. We've had good success with Decker, a lot of similar elements in this proposal that went in there. I know because I live over there, if I'm coming down Decker, down the hill, and I see that sign pop on, I say, whoop, here we are. And I slow down every time. I do see a lot of resident feedback that was incorporated into what this is. We've said it several times tonight. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for this. I think with the exception of the ongoing conversation of the cul-de-sac, I do like everything else, and I hope that we can continue to fine-tune or come to get a little bit more information even, trying to figure out what is that square footage of new driveway and what is that square footage of proposed grass. It's sort of, it was an aha moment for me personally when I saw the shift from the traffic circle to, oh, we're just straightening the road out. That hadn't even occurred to me as an option. And I again, I don't live there, but I thought that it was a pretty clever move, and it would have, design-wise, it would have been beneficial to the project. But I think if we get a little bit more information on what's the square footage of the grass and the driveway areas, maybe we can fine-tune that a little bit more. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Moving to my right. Trustee Sfani.
So I like all the changes that have happened. I like them. So my main concern is I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit here. The developer's paying for it. who's managing the project? Is it the village or the developer? That'd be a question for Brian or Eric.
Yeah, so the developer would be responsible for the improvements and performing the improvements. So it would be part of the development for the project. We would have inspections out there of the improvements performed. We also have plans for resurfacing New Haven Drive shortly after some of these improvements being performed. So we would be coordinating with their engineers and contractors performing the work to ensure that that coordinates with the planned resurfacing of the roadway as well.
So if I hear you correctly, the only thing that would technically go out to bid with the village would be, in theory, the resurfacing. Correct?
Yeah.
Everything else is on the developer to go through and do in coordination with the village.
Correct.
After the resurfacing.
After the resurfacing, yes. Okay, and then my second question is around the crosswalks. The way that these are striped, Eric, you were telling me that there was a method to the madness of why a crosswalk is striped the way that it is based on, I think you said traffic, is that correct?
Yes, there's different styles of striping patterns for crosswalks that can be used. Obviously, the most basic of crosswalks is a single white or two parallel white lines. There's the thicker bars of striping that are more longitudinal to the flow of traffic. And then I think what's shown here is a kind of a combination where you have the two white lines perpendicular to the curbs with diagonal striping between. Obviously, the different patterns highlight different levels of visibility. So I believe the developer is suggesting here a high visibility striping pattern, not the traditional single two lines.
Right. I think when we first discussed this, that, we would probably only need the two parallel lines, but we wanted to really identify these intersections as pedestrian crosswalks. So
got it.
This makes better safety for that neighborhood.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Trustee Collier?
I also like the improvements that we made and got the feedback for. Go back to the cul-de-sac. The reason I asked about it,
we're talking about the
reason I
roadway.
asked about it, I just want to know why this is the best idea. Why the other ideas weren't, and he spelled them out and told us why. So that was my question: was why is this the best option right now from our feedback?
Are you talking about the
Cul-de-sac, yes.
Well,
and I got the
we'll come
answer.
back to that. We'll
No,
come
no,
back to
I
that
got
in a
the
second.
answer,
I'll put a pin in that for just 1 second. Let's just finish this roadway and the improvements that are on here.
So we're going to circle back on the cul-de-sac.
I don't like using the word circle back, but we'll come back to that.
Okay, because I do have comments on that.
Yes.
As far as the improvements that are made, I think that we have come with the work that Brian's done, staff and the developers, and then obviously feedback from all of us on this. We've come a long way. It will never be perfect. We'll never come with a solution that addresses 100% of the people's concerns. I mean, that's an impossibility. But I think it's come a long, long way. I'm happy with the way it looks and what we're bringing to the table, and I will save my my comments on the entryway area until we open that up.
All right, anybody else have anything on the roadway? Okay, let's go back to the cul-de-sac, please.
So I'll just go back to why is this the best option?
So the issues previously were with the lateral shift that was proposed here. You had the cul-de-sac design, or the roundabout design. There were concerns as far as the traffic going through that location. We did look at other lateral shift options so that you would maintain, as opposed to having the parking on the south side, there was kind of maintaining the cul-de-sac bulb, so there's a lateral shift going through the intersection to try to minimize traffic speed as they're entering the subdivision. With the addition of the landscape median to the west of this area, so just on the edge of the screen, that will have that traffic calming effect that we were desiring as you're entering the subdivision. So the roadway curves past that landscape island. You have a lateral shift on either end of the island. That'll have a traffic calming effect for vehicles both entering and exiting the subdivision. And it was mainly designed to eliminate the excess pavement that you would have in the roadway with the cul-de-sac bulb to make it more aesthetically pleasing at the end entrance of the subdivision, so you wouldn't have a sea of asphalt remaining that's not utilized, to eliminate that, so that you'd have, yes, additional driveway would be added in that area, but it does eliminate a large amount of pavement that's in this area that would not be necessary after that improvement is made.
For the record, I was in favor of this improvement as it is now. Yes. I was asking the question for clarity.
Trustee Dudek?
Yep. So my comment relative to the same topic is it reminds me an awful lot of discussions we had when Cary Lake was being built. And there was concerns about maintenance and who would pay for that maintenance. And the developer, the owner at the time, set aside $1 million that we had with the village for a number of years to take care of the maintenance of that. I would suggest that it might make sense to find out what it would cost. We don't know how many square foot we have in this oddball-shaped diagram. Find out what it would cost to seal coat that over the useful life of the project. If you have a useful life of 20, somebody mentioned 20 years. If it costs $1,000, it's $20,000. If they can't set aside $20,000, then the financial aspects of their project doesn't make any sense. I think that it's something to look into, that we have the developer set aside a fund that the HOA could use then to take care of the seal coating of this. Because this is, again, something that's brought up at the 11th hour. So I appreciate you bringing it up, just we have no time to react to it. So that's my comment.
You're good? You're good with Sean? You're good?
I still think we should find out. It's not a bad idea to just have some facts, but I'm good with where we're at.
Good.
Thank you, Mayor. I asked our traffic consultant to pull out his laptop while we were sitting here, and he's been able to run some quick math on his lap while you have been talking. He calculated that shaded asphalt new area between 23 to 2,400 square feet approximately. So round up 2,400 conservatively. And then the new landscaping area to be approximately 1,900 square feet. Also, while I'm sitting here, I'm looking at what is the cost to seal coat according to ChatGPT today. You'll find it between 20 to 40, 50 cents-ish per square foot, depending on how much crack filling you're doing, or if it's just sealing. So if you're looking at doing this every 3 years, and it's 2,400 square feet, if you're at 50 cents a foot conservatively, are you on average $400 a year-ish?
Every 3 years.
On seal coating? I mean, that'd be like your average.
Yeah.
If you did every 3 years, but you budgeted so much per year, you're setting aside roughly $400 a year to do that. Then if you look at the landscaping, obviously we don't have a landscape plan. Is it grass? Is it bushes? Is it a combination? To cut some grass on 1,900 square feet, I mean, probably with your landscape contractor for the HOA, it's probably a rounding error. It can't be much.
I would add to that, Mayor, if we're going to take this as a serious consideration, then that 2,400 square foot number validated by our staff, then use the GIS program we have access to and find out what percentage that 2,400 makes of all the other blacktop that's already being taken care of. Are we adding 1% to their burden? Are we adding 1/10 of 1%? How many square feet are they already taking care of? Because I have a sneaking suspicion that, to steal your phrase, this is going to be a rounding error on their square footage.
So if I could add one more thing. So I don't know if there's any other comments on the traffic calming. Like, is this really the last
I think
item?
that's why I wanted to get through the rest of the roadway. Let's hear what
Right.
everybody had to say, and we're going to come back to what this is now our
Right, so if I'm hearing that everything else is good and we're really down to, we like this design, but we've got this cost burden issue, if we can solve that, then we can be done. Because we're just like you, we want to be done as well. We want to start construction in the next 45 days. To Trustee Dudek's comment, You asked me earlier about can we do this work as part of them. That obviously creates issues going on to public right of way and a whole list of concerns. You also alluded to, do we set aside some money for it? If it made sense for us to set aside some dollars for this to fund the HOA, that's a much easier ask of us. If we're talking about a reasonable dollar amount, we do it up front and we have no ongoing obligations and we can kind of put this to bed. That is, something that, we would be open to.
Yeah, please understand, the reason I suggest that, and whether it's $500 or $5,000, that's a line item that the HOA didn't have before this started. So I'm just trying to simply address the comments made by the HOA president, maybe, I don't know what your office is, that they've got to account for that. And that means the residents there, whether it's $1 or $10 at some point in time, may get a fee increase. So if we can come up with some sort of workable dollar amount, which you can use whatever calculations you want in per square foot and set aside something that can accommodate them, I think it's the best way. And I would defer to you. Is that something that would be acceptable to the HOA to have some sort of pool of money for this?
That would be a nice consideration.
Could you come up to the microphone, please?
That would be a nice consideration. I think that if you were changing it up, and I know that you're doing your best, I'm not negating that, but if you're changing it up and adding to what we're going to pay for your project that we don't want, it probably should have been discussed or considered. And maybe our consideration on what we would like to see happen here, since we're going to be paying for it long-term, I know you think that having half of the cul-de-sac left there would look ridiculous, but if there's lines going straight through into the other neighborhood, that's avert your eyes, just keep driving straight through the other neighborhood. I mean, it's just a burden of one more thing for us to maintain, and I know, it's just gonna be a few bushes. We haven't been able to plant new bushes for 3 years. So we're busy maintaining safety issues for 25-year-old buildings.
So would you expect just maybe grass?
Well, I have no
We're
idea.
trying to come up with solutions here for you.
I don't know. It wasn't discussed. We didn't have any time to think about it. I haven't had time to ask anybody else about, it was put online that it's gonna go straight through. But it didn't say that, what was gonna happen next. It would be nice to have
we're addressing that now. We're considering this now. So I think in the best interest of the low cost of you moving forward with this, potentially adding this on to your current landscaper, just to keep it grass. Just keep it grass, keep it simple. And if you wanted to add something else at a later date, that would be on the HOA. But it sounds like you're not adding landscaping. So
Not at this time. But,
Well, I think what we need to do is, it's been suggested that we will find out exactly what the square footage is, come up with a cost that is agreeable to you, and the developer is willing to set aside funds for that, and you sign off on this, and then we're done with this. Then we move on. The developer can move forward with this. We can make sure that you're being compensated for what you feel needs to be compensated for, and I think that that's very fair.
all I can do is bring it to my homeowners.
Sure.
That's all I can do.
Okay. All right, so I think that what we'll do is the direction, we have everything, they like everything, including this. We have a unanimous consent from the committee here. And the last detail we need to find out is the exact dimensions so that we're able to put a dollar amount on that to present to Cambria's HOA. Is that agreeable? I think it's agreeable with the board.
And how long of a term are we thinking for the cost? I'm just curious, that makes a difference as to how much money you're gonna be putting aside. Is it a 10-year term? Is it a 20-year term?
They can come up with a plan, let them
Okay.
work it out.
Okay, that's fine.
Together.
Sure.
Okay.
So you're clear, the board is supporting as proposed on the entire package of traffic calming, with the addition of developer providing funding to the HOA for future maintenance of the additional grass and driveway approach, and that you're okay with staff working with developer and the HOA to determine that amount.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As we move forward. Deputy Nadenoff, you've been so patient. Our next item is a discussion on electric micro mobility devices. This is near and dear to a lot of our hearts. We get bombarded with this. No, we're good. You need a microphone.
Thank you, thank you. How about now?
Perfect.
We're good? Okay.
Thank you.
So, I spent a lot of time watching the November 18th meeting. That was the last time this topic came before the committee, and it seemed like the board favored education over enforcement at that time. We met with our group of stakeholders again last month, the McHenry County Conservation District, the school districts, the park districts, and we wanted to find some common ground as to what everybody was doing with this issue. Pairing this up with every entity that surrounds us is going to be difficult at best. Other municipalities have already taken a stance. Many of them, surprisingly, are quite restrictive, which seemed to be a little bit opposite of what the board wanted to do at the November 18th meeting when this was discussed. So what I'd like to do tonight is give you some options. There's a draft ordinance. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. I hope it didn't scare you a little bit, because it's kind of as open as I would say I would suggest. That does mirror the conservation district pretty closely, just so you have that comparison. If you're looking at if residents of Cary are going to use these devices and then they're going to transverse their way to the conservation district, our draft ordinance is very close to what they're doing. Now, I will tell you, when you go outside of Cary, when you look at Lake in the Hills, Algonquin, Huntley, Crystal Lake, they're quite restrictive. Like I mentioned before, Lake in the Hills, Algonquin, Huntley, they're very restrictive with all of these things. Crystal Lake has kind of taken the stance that we're just going to follow what the Illinois Vehicle Code says right now, and that's what our ordinance, our city code is going to say. So as we work our way through this, what I would like to explain is where you have the discretion to govern something and where it has already been governed by the IVC, and we don't have quite as much say in what we do with that. Sound good? And I am looking for feedback tonight, how we can really get this thing tweaked down and have something good for you on the 21st or whenever it comes back. We can skip this. We don't need to talk about motorcycles. The reason I kept this in here is I just wanted to show you an example of where a technology has already been addressed within the Illinois Vehicle Code. So as we look to govern how these things can be used and where they can be used, you are going to see some of these are already addressed in the Illinois Vehicle Code. So these electric personal assistive mobility devices, or Segways as we know them, they are already governed. But you'll see at the bottom of this slide in section 1412.2, the legislator throws in there, nothing in this section shall be deemed to limit or preempt the authority of any home rule or non-home rule unit of government. So there is some regulation at the state level, but they're also throwing us the ability to say, we want this to work this way here. The final slide, Nick, you don't have to go to it, but the final slide of this presentation is going to have kind of an overview. It's the chart of what this ordinance was meant to capture. this is kind of where things become a little bit discretionary. These are the things that aren't addressed in the Illinois Vehicle Code, and they can create, the only ordinance we have right now that would address some of these things would be an ordinance that addresses toy vehicles. It's a pretty old ordinance. It's been on the books for a while before I even got here. And then off-highway vehicles. So we do have ordinances that would relate to these things, the one-wheels, the Segways, the hoverboards, the electric skateboards, all of these new technologies that are coming out. The Conservation District, I'm going to continue to throw them under the bus just to give you some flavor of what they did with this. They do allow all of these things, but they regulate speed. So on their paved trails for the Conservation District, and that'll be on a slide coming up here, they allow all of these things, but they're regulated by speed. So one of the, not to push you in any direction, but this is a classification that you have to decide what do you want to do with these things in this catch-all category. The thing up at the top, the dirt bike looking thing, the e-moto, those are what cause us more problems at the police department than anything. The electric dirt bikes that rip up and down the paths, they're throttle controlled, they go very fast, and they sneak up on you. I know someone made a comment at one of the previous meetings that you don't even hear them coming, and they do go very fast. So the draft ordinance that I have here in 1056-010, that's just kind of a catch-all where my intention there was to prohibit certain things, one of them being pocket bikes, e-motos, those things that go pretty fast. And we have the authority to do that. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward here. The Conservation District allows these things. They regulate them by speed as long as they are operated in safe operation on their paths. Go to the next one for me. I think low-speed electric bicycles, the vehicle code made them way more complicated than they needed to. They are addressed in the IVC. Pursuant to the Illinois Vehicle Code, they are not allowed on sidewalks. That is from the Illinois Vehicle Code. They cannot be used on sidewalks. And then if you, on the slide there, it says Class 3 electric bicycles. You have to be 16 years of age, and that's because of speed. That is because of the speed. Now, what's kind of wonky about this, I'll use the word wonky, is the Class 2 electric bicycle is the bicycle that can actually be operated with a throttle. You don't have to pedal to have the assist. And as you'll notice on the slide, some of these things go pretty fast. So one of the things, we know they can't be used on sidewalks, but we are going to see them on bike lanes. We are going to see them, or we are seeing them now, on our paved paths, our multi-use paths. The Park District, when they were at, I don't think anybody's here from the Park District. When the Park District was at our meeting last month, they kind of acquiesced to us and said, we're okay with what you do. Because the question came up, well, if we allow them on our multi-use paths and then they make their way to your path, how do you feel about that? And they said they were comfortable with the model that I've put together here and what the Conservation District is doing. So just something to keep in mind there as well. Any questions about the electric bicycles? Okay. You can go to scooters. Scooters. This is an interesting one because the representative from District 26, when we met with them, he's like, oh yeah, all our kids have these things. And you have to be 18 years of age to operate these. So this is where I don't necessarily envy your position because there's hundreds of these things out there that parents have spent quite a bit of money on, and we're going to be, the police department will be the Grinches going out there saying, sorry, buddy, you can't operate that thing anymore. Now, in the draft ordinance that I put together, I don't know if you caught this and it scared you at all, but For the electric scooters, I kept everything pretty wide open. That can be restricted. The only restrictions that are handed down to us from the Illinois Vehicle Code, the age restrictions, the classification of the vehicle, or what an electric scooter actually is. And then we have the authority. We have the ultimate authority as the village to say, yes, they can be used within the village of Cary, within these parameters that we have outlined, or you could take the other approach, which is what Lake in the Hills, Algonquin, and Huntley have done and said, we don't want them, and prohibit their use. So you have a lot of autonomy as it relates to, excuse me, the electric scooter. So this, if it feels like it's kind of threading a needle because we want to let people have some fun and use some of these things, but we want to restrict them in certain places, it is, and we need to be very direct in how we put that together. Go ahead. This is, I know this is a little bit difficult to read, but this is a snapshot, screenshot from the Conservation District's website. It gives you a little bit of a feel for what they are regulating and how. They told us they actually do go out and monitor speed. They will enforce speed on their trails. That is certainly something we could consider if we wanted to say, yes, you can use an electric bicycle, but only by pedal operation in these certain areas. Or you can use the electric bicycle in any manner you want, but you can't do it over 15 miles per hour. We can do that. The challenge there is going to be enforcement, is putting people out there to enforce that. But this is, again, their ordinance is very similar to what I've put together in the model ordinance. I think the next one, there we go. Okay. So, in a summary here, this is essentially a snapshot. This is a visualization of what the draft ordinance allows and what it doesn't allow. Some of the places where it's very permissive, it is not very restrictive. I want to make sure you understand that I don't expect that you're okay with all of these recommendations. I just want to talk about how you view these different conveyances, and then we can kind of narrow down what type of restrictions you want to put on each. Questions, comments?
Enforcement. How are you going to, I'm out in the community all the time. I'm on all the paths. These kids are crazy. They're flying, absolutely flying. Nowhere on here does it mention golf carts, which are becoming more prevalent on the trails over behind Northwood Acres and Boxford Hills. But we don't want to be fun suckers. We want people to be able to have fun and utilize things. But I think when we originally talked about this, it was education. Teaching people, I see these kids, I'm out really early in the morning and these kids going to the junior high are on these scooters and they're flying. They're in packs. And they come up, you got earbuds in and they come up behind you and it's crazy. What?
Gangs of kids.
No, and they look like they're having a ball. I think that's fun. But if the state is already saying they have to be 18 to be driving these and we're not enforcing that, then we're not providing the safety that we need to for our residents. So I think it needs education.
Right. So what everybody said no to education that you talked to, it said they don't want to conduct a class about rules, or no?
No,
or
not no to education. They're being restrictive to allowing these things, the other communities.
Yeah, a lot of them are just saying no, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a much easier scenario to say no to practically everything, because then the enforcement it becomes a lot easier than it's multidimensional.
Mm-hmm. So
I'll make the same statement I made before, which is I know enforcement is speed is the only issue. I don't think anybody gives a crap whether it's one wheel, four wheels, two wheels,
Right.
doesn't matter. It's what you're driving it on, road, sidewalk, path, and how fast are you going. So I'm in favor of some sort of ordinance. I think we're probably behind the times in having something. Yeah. And I think what Deputy Chief's put up here is a very good start. It's
agree.
specific enough that You know, you should know what you're owning, you should know what you're driving, and fall where you can and can't be. If we can at least get some of the pack of kids in there to pay attention to that, after that, it just becomes speed enforcement.
Well said.
I agree 100%. I think that we need to have something. I think we start off with something. We can always change it as things morph and things change. We can certainly do that, but I think it's long past the time that we need to have something, and it is going to be an enforcement issue. It's going to be very hard, so I think the only thing you can start with is getting that educational component out there. I'd be willing to bet there are a lot of parents that don't realize this, okay? They've bought these for their kids. They've spent that money, not knowing that what they're doing is really not legal, right? That their kids are 12, and they have to be 18. So, I mean, it's again, we don't make you guys the bad guys here, but it's just a matter of how do we get that information relayed out there. And we know we have avenues that we can put things out on our Carrier Weekly and our News Weekly. We can put it on our Facebook page. That doesn't mean that they're going to look at that or read that. So I think we have to do something else in conjunction with this.
Yeah, the schools will partner with us. I should have mentioned that earlier. They were more than willing to partner with us on the educational piece. So a kid, are we okay with the kid having an electric scooter if they're 19 years old, but we want to regulate speed? Is that, or the multi-use path, just as an example, along Cary Algonquin Road? Do we want to allow electric bicycles on that path as long as they're operating within a certain speed restriction? Is that?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Can you sort of explain what that traffic stop looks like? I mean, we've got a. How are we identifying that they are going above the speed limit that we're going to set? And then how do we approach, what's the conversation with the minor? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No,
It's an awkward and difficult thing, but what does that look like? And then if we're dealing with a minor, somebody who's under 16 who doesn't have any ID, it's like, well, where do you live? And it's like, I don't know. I'm just wondering how, in practice, enforcement is the challenge. What does it look like if we're going to actually do something?
It happens, and it's going to happen, and we have handheld radar units, and that if we're having an issue, that's how enforcement would look. We would have an officer out there with a handheld radar unit and reminding the kids, hey, you need to slow down. You can only go 10 miles per hour on this path, and have those conversations. And if it is a full-blown traffic stop, it would involve the officer stopping the kid. We have a policy where every time we stop a juvenile, we make contact with the parents. So that's the extension of that educational opportunity, and letting the parents know technically, your 14-year-old cannot ride this scooter. They simply cannot ride this scooter. So then, they'll show up on another device a few days later after they've sold the scooter on Marketplace and bought a one-wheel or whatever the case may be. And that's really the interesting thing about this is the Secretary of State has put together a task force, and they're trying to catch up to this technology, because as soon as you address one in statute or ordinance, another one comes out. Soon it's going to be little rocket boots, that make you float, and we're going to have to govern that. So it's a challenge. But yeah, the traffic stop part would be simple.
Okay.
It really would.
As long as you can catch them.
Well,
just saying.
That's a
just
problem.
saying.
That
They're flying by you.
That has been the problem
Yeah.
with the e-motos specifically. We get the complaints and they take off on us on the e-motos, and it is a problem. And they're riding through yards and easements and at high speeds, at pretty high speeds.
Okay. Sorry, the follow-up question has left my mind right now.
Okay.
I'll circle back.
I'm here all night.
My question
Me
is,
too.
how do you do any enforcement now, and is there tickets to be given now with the ordinance as it stands?
Right now, we are very, we are, it's only in response to a complaint, honestly. It's very reactive right now.
Even with an ordinance, would it not continue to be that way because you have the resources to pull over 600 kids a day on scooters?
It would be mainly reactive. I think that's fair to say, but I also think if our officers saw some kids doing something unsafe
down the middle of the road,
no
cutting off
lights
cars,
on, and it's
right.
nighttime and
Yeah.
it's really unsafe, I think they would take action on that. I feel very confident they will
Yes.
take action on
So
that.
I'm saying, just if you see a group of kids riding down the road, and there's 6 of them, and they're doing 15 miles an hour, and they look like they're 12 years old, you're probably not going to stop them if they're obeying.
I think that would be
You
an
have more things to do.
be an educational opportunity.
Right.
And then where it gets a little bit silly also is where do you put the Barbie Corvette? Where do you put the Razor
nowadays.
electric scooter? Where do those are toy vehicles right now under our current ordinance. So is that an educational opportunity?
I'll ask one more question. Is there a helmet component to any of this where we could, as a village, require a helmet being worn?
I knew that question was coming. Yes,
Thank
you
you.
can. Yes, you can. Some, on the polar opposite of the model ordinance I put together, there are municipalities that are requiring driver's licenses for the electric bicycles because they're going to be ridden on the roadways. They're requiring driver's licenses for people 18 years and older. For the electric scooters, they're requiring helmets to be on any of these things. So the answer is yes, we could put that in the ordinance.
Because we can always be more restrictive, but we have to at least be as restrictive as the state dictates, correct?
Yes, and there are areas where the state has kind of set the minimum bar, so you have to follow that. But yes, we can be more restrictive.
One other, pardon me? It did come back to me. Glad you're still here. Another tough spot about this, and I think it's been lightly touched on, is these are young kids. They're not even supposed to have them until they're 18. But once they're 16, odds are they're going to get in a car after they've gotten their driver's license. And so this thing may be collecting dust or hit Cary Marketplace at that point, or the little brother or sister is going to get it. So the enforcement is tough. You know, the age group is tough because they're going to age out of this before we know it. And I think there'd be very few, not none, but very few 18-year-olds who are going to be using these instead of just, driving to Taco Bell. I am in favor of enforcement by speed, as we said, and I would be in favor of enforcing helmets. I think those are the two easiest things to say, hey, if we see this, we got to stop you, and we're going to tell you have to have a helmet. We're going to call your parents. Let's sort it out.
Especially because it's minors. Especially as that's the demographic that's using
even
that.
the speed at 5 miles an hour and you whack your heads,
Well,
serious
they're
damage.
wearing them for
Helmets
bicycles,
help,
regular
right.
bicycles. So they should be using
they
them for
don't.
this.
I'm with helmet and speed also at this point, but I like the presentation. Enforcement's hard.
Trustee Dudek, you have any comments?
I think Scott, does any of this suggest that registration is required?
That would be something we could do at the local level if we were to allow, let's say we were to allow electric scooters. We were to say electric scooters can be used within the Village of Cary, subject to these parameters. We could have a local registration process where they would have to register it through the municipality.
I think, and I concur with my fellow trustees, this speed is the thing that scares me a lot. And then I think the helmets as an inclusion is a given. But I'd also like to have some registration requirements so we can try to figure out, who's on first if we ever need to. Much like, bicycles used to be registered many, many years ago.
I'm afraid of the administration.
I think the administration might be a nightmare with and who's going to pay.
The whole program is a headache for
Yeah, those-
administration. So what are you talking about?
I'm with you. I think I'm only just for just the helmets and keep it the way that it's been. But that's just my own 2 cents. I mean, my kids had it at 7 and 8, and again, I explained it to my kids. Hey, this is what you do. This is what you don't do. I don't know if that's happening otherwise.
Education
So,
is
yeah,
important. But that
education
comes
is
from
important.
home and,
You got it.
That's why
So-
partnering with the schools is a great.
Yes, agreed.
That's a great opportunity to get the educational
Would
component
the
out.
schools be willing to do a certificate where the kids showed up and they actually took a class, a safety class on how to stop at a sidewalk in a street? Or no?
Based on our conversations with them, if we did the class, if we put that training on, yeah, they would be willing to to facilitate that.
Like
type
an
of
assembly
program.
type of a thing you would do?
Or something after school. We
After
had talked about doing something for the parents even here, having an open house and explaining the rules. So the scooter thing kind of sticks in my craw, the issue with the scooter, because we have a lot of authority there. I just want to make sure I understand. We're okay with scooters, but we want to regulate speed. So if a person's over the age of 18, but we want to regulate the speed, correct?
That's what I'm hearing.
On our paths.
On our
Now-
paths, sidewalk, they're not permitted on sidewalks.
They're not, well, we could allow them, but we're going to say no.
Right.
We're going to say no to sidewalks in that regard. When we start regulating speed on the paths with the electric bicycles, are we also going to then regulate that speed for a non-electric bicycle? Well, that's what comes, the Conservation District said those are some of the arguments that come up because you get these guys on these street bikes that are going 20+ miles per hour. Even though it's not propelled by any motor, they're still violating the minimum speed restriction.
You get the people that are in bicycle groups, right, that are training for some of the events that are out there. I mean, adults.
I have one thing I can say to that I think would be pertinent to this. If you're on, in the example Deputy Chief used of you're on a road bike and you're out training, you are doing 25 miles an hour, which is easy to do, get off the path and get on the road. You know, you're an advanced rider. Why are you on the path? So I think if we, to your direct answer to your question, yes, if we're regulating speed on the path, doesn't matter to me if he's pedaling or he's pulling the trigger. If you're going over 10 miles an hour, there's a problem.
Could we put little, do we put little speed signs? on the- Well, I mean,
No
I'm
more
asking
signs.
because you do see them in some communities. And with the little stop signs even, you know,
It's very common up north where all the snowmobile trails have all that
Oh, yeah.
information. It could be as easy as spray paint once a year right on the path.
Why is the age difference 16 on electric bikes at 28 and under, but scooters are 18-year-old at 10 and under?
I have no idea.
It's the Wild West, that's why.
You're
So-
gonna have
You have
you'll
to go
get
somewhere else to get that
zero
answer.
amount of people to show up for a class that are 18 or over.
I agree.
To take a class. That's not
I
who's
agree.
riding scooters or e-bikes.
I would agree, but it's better capturing the youth.
You're talking about 10-year-olds to 15-year-olds, basically.
10 to 16, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're seeing.
The junior high kids are the problem.
Let me ask our two men in blue over there. What, in a perfect world, what would you like to see happen in the village of Cary? I've talked to other mayors in town around this area, and I know how they stand on things. And you've mentioned some of them that just absolutely they prohibit it. Period.
So from the research I've done on it, I think an electric bicycle is okay because you can still pedal the electric bicycle and you can regulate the speed of the electric bike. Bicycles are bicycles, and I have no issue with that. These other things, these other technologies, I would like to see them completely restricted. These one wheels, the scooters, all those other things. I think they have their place. If you look at Ride Illinois, Ride Illinois is they promote alternate transportation methods, you know, besides combustion engine vehicles. And I think the idea behind these electric scooters, and to answer your question about the 18 years old for the electric scooter, people in more urban settings, they will ride these things to work. Even a more dense suburban setting, and it's a cost-effective way to get to and from work. Here, that's not the application it's being used for here. It's kids under the age of 18 who can't be on them anyway. So to answer your question, Mayor, the bicycles, I think we can deal with. All the other things, I don't really think they belong on those paths. That wasn't the intention of those paths, and I don't know if the chief agrees with that.
I actually do completely, especially when it comes to the scooters. As Scott had mentioned, there's a safety component. When you're driving something that fast with small wheels, small bumps, small cracks have adverse consequences. We all know from riding bicycles, the bigger the tire, the better ability you have to handle those types of things. When someone's clipping along at a high rate of speed on a scooter, especially a young kid, the danger is greatly increased, I believe. And I do think that, to agree with Scott, that the way they're being applied in our setting, in our village, doesn't work, and it creates issues. So I would concur with Scott that the electric bikes, I think we can govern, I think we can educate, but the other ones, those are the ones that make me more nervous. Out of all these things that we've discussed, the electric bikes are the most palatable, I would say.
I defer to you. And I mean that in all honesty. I think we should set up something based on what you guys think would be best to start off with. And you know better. You're going to be administering it. You're going to be educating on it. You're going to be, you know, I just think that you're our best resource for how we should be doing this.
Go back, Scott, I think, to some of the things you were covering at the outset. Let's just say that we allow electric bikes and outlaw everything else. We are within our means to be able to do that.
Yes. Yes.
Do we do that? Where is the line in the sand? Is it, you know, like what's the effective date, or do we do one of those things where we say, hey, you got 3 months, you know, enjoy your summer, kids, because in 3 months the line in the date in this is here, and we're not going to be having these anymore. Is that how that would work, or is it effective immediately?
I think it would, as soon as the ordinance is approved, it's effective that day.
Okay.
Thoughts? Other? I concur with what the chief and deputy chief say. I think this is, it's really a no-brainer. I mean, what I see out in the community, especially on these paths with these young kids, is it's so unsafe. And you know, just the other day, I mean, there was 6 of them on little mini bikes, all kind of ripping up Cary Grove Park. They're up on the soccer fields and that. And it's like there's no, we shouldn't have to deal with that. And again, how do we enforce that? How do you get a squad car up there to go find them, and then they take off, and then where are you? I don't want to make it an enforcement nightmare. I don't want to be a fun sucker, but we have to worry about everybody else too.
So
It's who they're going to hurt. It's not meant. Sometimes it could also be that they're going to hurt someone else. They're coming up behind them. They hit them. You know what I mean? Someone's got a stroller. Has got a baby there. It's just an accident waiting to happen.
So
if I could ask the deputy chief in terms of enforcement, is it dramatically easier to be wholly restrictive?
Yes. Yes, and we also have the last grenade I was going to throw at you tonight was we can also codify a penalty for the parents as well, where they can be held liable for allowing the juvenile to participate in the activity. Obviously, we're going to want to make sure we've met a burden of knowing, you know, they knowingly or they recklessly, however we put that into the ordinance, but other municipalities have taken that stance as well to get the parents to pay more attention to it. Well, hey, now I'm getting a ticket for what my kid did.
I'm getting a sense of where many of us are up here. Question for asking the question is, would that be able to be employed for some of our the earlier stages of this, where it's like, hey, you're not wearing a helmet. We've told you twice. Now we gotta. Well, there's the warnings, but then 3 strikes, you're out. Like you go to the parents, and that's when the fine is assessed.
Yeah.
Or if multiple speeding offenses, same kid, we call the house. 3rd time, mom and dad have got a fine. Is that also doable?
Attorney Euler's going to comment on this.
So we do have options in administrative adjudication. These tickets would go to administrative adjudication, and we typically do not. I don't know what the fine ultimately might be here, but it's not a $100 fine. It's a $10 fine and 5 hours, 6 hours of community service, especially if it's a first offense. And that usually gets the message across. If you have to go spend a Saturday providing community service, they don't want to come back here. And if I see them again, or if we see them again here, then the penalty is going to go up. So.
And your other municipalities how are they? They're allowing just the e-bikes.
I think a lot of the municipalities are taking your tact that it's very difficult to enforce in a differentiated way these different devices. So the electric bikes are generally allowed, where you can pedal. It's like a bike with an optional motor, and the others are banned on sidewalks and streets. So,
Scott, I want to get back to, I think it was a question.
Is your microphone on?
Oh, yes, it is. Thank you. I'm just not talking loud.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the trustees that mentioned about regular bicycles, non-motorized. So we seem to hone in on the motorized bike, which I am in agree with. I think we probably need, as Trustee Walrath that mentioned it, I think we need to think about non-motorized bikes up to a certain speed, whether it's 20, 25, I don't know what the right speed is. Would, anything over that would not be allowed on a path or sidewalk. They'd have to be on the street. So, I think we need to kind of address the bicyclers out there that are flying around also and potentially could harm somebody just walking. So anything above certain speed limit, then I think they need to be on the roadway.
That makes sense.
And that's absolutely doable. We can say, bicycles are allowed on these paths up to this speed. We can certainly do that.
So will the police department have a class 3 so you can chase down these guys?
I wanted a scooter, but yeah.
I just thinking how because there's so many go through Hoffman Park, those paths back there. How do you guys get back there?
I got one I can sell you.
If we have to get back there, sometimes we have to put the bollard down and drive back there for an emergency. That would be where an ATV or a UTV would be useful for us to be able to get.
How many years have you been asking for that?
It's been a while.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to throw that a bunch of tape.
If I could ask Administrator Morimoto, what kind of public outreach, if we're going down this road? We have a lot of public outreach for community changes, new streets, new sidewalks, things that, new developments, that can be viewed as contentious or divisive on people on different sides. What kind of community outreach do you think we should put out there to have the discussion with the community? Because we all hear it, and I know the mayor spoke to that earlier. We all hear it from folks saying we got to do something, we got to do something. Well, let's hear from the 10% of people that utilize them, the 5%, 20%, I don't know, however many. My wife works at the grade school. You'd think it was every single one of these kids. So enough people have these devices that surely we've got to get some input from them on, do they believe that they should be allowed to have them and use responsibly and take that on? Or, is it going to be just a very small portion and we just are going to go over public safety? So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on public outreach from our board.
Yeah, I think there's 2 tiers of outreach, though. I think kind of maybe jumping ahead a bit, outreach with regards to whatever ordinance is in place, after it's in place or as it's being implemented, that outreach is going to be definitely important to be leveraging our partners. That's why we had such went to great lengths to coordinate with the Cary Park District, the Conservation District, and the Fox River Grove, Crystal Lake, the towns that abut our paths and roadways. Making sure that we have a unified, consistent message, and that's why it's good to hear that our partners, especially the Park District and the Conservation District, are open to what we're doing, and then we are trying to be consistent with their approach as well. But the educational side with the target audience is going to be important. So the school districts that Deputy Chief Daynoff mentioned, utilizing and taking advantage of their delivery methods to get that word out to not just the students but the parents. That'll be very important. Layered on top of what we already do a great job with open house meetings or electronic outreach, media. That's the other side of it. Local media would be another good tool, and I think that's something I would encourage us to do that, again, in coordination with our neighboring communities, because we're not unique in having these issues. It's a regional, it's statewide.
Do we feel like there's some need for a public discussion before we vote? We've all got our personal interactions with these, but we go out of our way to hear what people have to say about sidewalks and roads. I think that we need to put the word out that we're considering this.
I agree.
Find some way to take feedback, either through polling or, you know, an open meeting, whatever it might be. But we need to get some input. And if, I think we all have our own opinions as to how weighted it might be one side or the other. But I think it's a big enough outlawing something 100%. We should have this conversation.
I agree.
This is
Well,
not
I was
just
thinking maybe
restricted.
one of my suggestions was going to be to have an open house.
I think we do know.
Talk about what the ordinance is. Let's start with the state laws. You know, it's illegal for your 12-year-old to be riding this thing. They have to be 18 years old, which I don't understand 18 because they're going to get a car at 16. So
It's the
no
state.
18-year-old is going to be riding that around. Anyway, I digress. But I think that we open it up and have a meeting and talk about it. We could have the chief and deputy chief and whoever else could be here to kind of address their concerns and why we're heading the direction we're going. And, you know, I'd be willing to absolutely hear what people have to say. We have an obligation to do that.
And I think that's the other, I'm sorry, but that's the other tier of the communication that I was going to get to in the second half of the approach. Then you have the outreach ahead of approving the ordinance. And that's where we have our standard processes, things like our open houses, digital surveys, written surveys. Those are tools we've used in the past, and they have their purpose, but they do still capture relatively small subset of the population. And that's where, circling back to a separate tier, but my answer is the same. I still think that we would need to leverage our partners at the schools and the park district and the conservation district to get the survey or get the people, the users, the parents of the users, to get their attention to give feedback. It's going to have to be a little bit different than what we normally do because the people we're most concerned about are the ones that aren't just coming to our meetings and filling out the survey. They're under 16. They're far younger than that even. So our approach, to answer your question, Trustee Walrath, will have to be a bit different because of that fact.
I agree 100%. And it is one of those things that how many people are going to come out and come to it? You know, let's be real honest. We might not get a lot, but then I feel like we've done our due diligence. All we can do is bring the information, ask for input, invite them to come, and then go from there. But I think we need to do that before we put something in place. Without having, if we're restricting something, we need to have at least an opportunity for people to come and talk about it. And I think we'll probably be surprised if the people that do come. I do think that there's a lot of parents that have no idea that they're allowing their children to do something that's not quote unquote legal.
So that's my question. Why do we need an ordinance if it's already state law? Can't we just enforce the state law and say no, and be done?
We can.
That seems a lot easier. We don't
Can.
need public outreach. It's a state law. We're following nobody else's law. We're not creating an ordinance. Why go through all this?
Well, I still think it's important that they know it to educate
Yeah, but it's
people.
a state law. He says they'd rather not see them. It'd be a lot easier to enforce. Just go with that.
Well, that could be the nature of the open house then, to,
Just tell them this is what's happening.
Informing.
Sure.
Informational.
Yeah, Attorney Euler brought up, a lot of these, the bottom three are unregulated right now. And, I think that we have an obligation to, we need to enforce, we could, the state, since we are a non-home rule community, we can only be more restrictive. We can't be less restrictive. So we have an obligation to let the public know this is what we're thinking. And I think that this captures pretty much what the board is wanting to do.
To
helmet
clarify,
thing, I think how did the helmet thing go with motorcycles? That went over like a lead balloon. That's not a law, right?
My whole point
Kids
of
are
saying this
different.
is that there is nobody 18 or 19 years old riding these. It's everybody below it. So just tell them they can't ride them. It's state law already.
Yeah.
You don't need outreach. If we're going to go with the ban of not having them, what's the point?
By having the ordinance, it gives us the ability to put it into adjudication court and not take, if we stick strictly with the IVC and state law, these tickets are going to state court and they're going to the county courthouse, which is going to overwhelm them. And we lose the control from the educational component, or as our attorney mentioned, well, low fine and some education, maybe community service. We lose all of that stuff if we stick solely with the state.
And I also like to circle back, if you are to consider helmets, we'll maybe Deputy Chief can highlight how the other towns that do have a helmet requirement apply it. But is the board suggesting helmets just for riders 16 and under, 18 and under, all riders? No, I'm talking about electric bikes. Or you were only suggesting helmets for scooters?
I was talking about anything electric, yes. So if you're under 16 or 18 and can't ride them anyways, what's the point?
Because you can ride an electric bicycle under 16.
Class 1 and 2.
We're going to see people out there riding these things, and if they're even after an ordinance is put forth, so
Until
if,
they're
if
caught,
they're
yes.
yeah, it's like, oh well, hey, you weren't wearing a helmet, and also you know, 2 strikes. You're not wearing a helmet, and you're not allowed to be doing this. It's another mechanism to sort of prompt, you know, a stop or something like that. You know,
Not to throw any rain on your parade, but I think it'd be very, very easy if we don't conduct these educational pieces like we're talking about for some parents who have already made the investment to say that this is overreaching, it's big brother-ish, because they don't understand that the state has. No, I get it, but what we're trying to, I think the basis for starting the education is that it's already illegal. And we might allow kids to have one component of this if we allow the electric bicycles. That's still to be determined, I guess. But that might be the piece that we'll allow. But I would be willing to bet that there's virtually no parent in our town whose kid has one of these things that they realize it's illegal. I can't even envision that would be the case. So we got to start there, and where we end up, who knows? But I think the educational piece, we owe it to the parents to do that.
I agree.
Can you go back to the slide then? What's legal e-bikes for kids under 16?
What's legal currently?
Yes.
Or for the e-bikes?
For the e-bikes, sorry.
The e-bikes, the class 1 and 2 can be operated, and the reason the class 3 has the 16-year-old requirement is because of the speed.
But the 1 and 2 electric bikes do not have restriction for age?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I think with some of the feedback, I think I've got some direction. Speed and careful operation is really the biggest concern. And if we can figure out how to make that jive with the state statute and what's already out there, that seems like that would be favored.
Well, and piggybacking on what the chief said, I think we need to have something so we have some control. I don't want it to be state controlled because that defeats the purpose.
So one approach that I'm hearing, it could be what I think is suggested here on the screen now, is a very broad, not a overreaching draconian approach. The chief likes to use that word. Along with a very concerted educational effort. That could be a starting point, and then if the board sees that that's not enough, then we can move in a subsequent time, year, or whatever period you desire, to throttle it back more after we've heard more feedback, after we've had more experience enforcing a broad ordinance. That's one approach. But if the board desires to have something on the books sooner than later for what's out there now, and to the chief and deputy chief's point, if we want to be able to actually apply and enforce within our adjudicative court, I would suggest that having at least a broad, loose structure to start with at a minimum sounds like what I'm hearing you desire.
Are we figuring helmets into that as well? Or are we?
I think helmets is going to be a really big thing. I think
we need to separate the two issues.
Yes.
Okay.
Try to walk before we run.
Thank you, yes. Okay. With all of that, Deputy, do you have, Chief, you've got a comment?
Yeah, just to point out, I dumped this on Scott's lap as staff work, and the depths he went to in peeling this onion is evident in front of you. It was outstanding. I learned a ton from what he was able to put together, so I just want to give credit to Scott because he put a lot of hours into this and research with all the other organizations, and kudos to him. I thought he did an excellent job.
Yep, he did. It was
Thank
well
you.
done. Thank you.
Well done, well done.
All right, thank you. so he has at least some direction. Some direction. Sorry. We have the final thing on is a presentation of the administrator's quarterly update. You've got 30 seconds.
Challenge accepted. Slide 1064. Okay, sorry.
Well, you know what? I'm going to
So quick.
entertain a motion to it.
All right, I just have I won't say quick update, highlighting some of our different departments from the last quarter and our accomplishments and some big news. Obviously, we're proud of the partnership for National Night Out that we have each year, and I got a picture here on the screen of the recently installed signage honoring former Chief Patrick M. Finlan and our police department. And our current chief, Nate Hayes, welcome to the team. He just jumps right in. Proud that he's continuing our tradition of regional and collaboration and partnerships. Chief has stepped in. He is now the president of the McHenry County Chiefs of Police Association, and also has, with that, a seat on the board for the McHenry County ETSB, which is overall with the 911 dispatch.
Love it. Love it.
So thank you for your work there. Obviously, we're still partners with the Regional Training Center and the Firearms Training Facility that's over at the PW facility. And also, just to highlight, the Police Social Work Program, that Cary is one of 18 agencies that are partners in that county-run program. It's now an award-winning program by the National Association of Counties. Mayor mentioned earlier that CCOM, our 911 dispatch center, we are one of the 3 founding partners with Crystal Lake and Algonquin. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and with that, we completed our new expansion of the center and modernization of our equipment. We now have enough seats for 2 shifts to occur simultaneously, so we can avoid any minor lapses or delays in service with shift changes, and we can also handle another dispatch center's calls should they have an emergency, as well as have room for expansion. And with that, we also recently added Lakewood Police as our latest agency member, and we have a new executive director. We promoted Don Burr from assistant to the top person in charge. Over in Public Works, we're going to celebrate National Public Works Week with them in May, so look out for our team out in the streets and behind the scenes in that area. One of the things we're very proud of is Public Works assisted with producing a handout that the mayor and staff are utilizing to lobby for our priorities on the transportation network on state and U.S. routes. So these brochures were professional quality, but produced in-house by our office assistant, Mackenzie, and Katie as well. And it highlighted a lot of our 5 biggest projects, and one of which we are actually hoping to get off the ground very shortly with some news we had from IDOT on First Street. So more to come on that. Didn't want to spoil that. Sorry, Kalen.
He had his opportunity.
We were also, this past year, I was a member of the steering committee for the McHenry County Safety Action Plan, and that resulted in a whole number of projects in the Cary area that were included in that plan. The perks and benefits of that are that these projects are now eligible for certain funding programs and grant programs. 2 of the projects that I started at the top were in the priority project list that ranked amongst the highest in the plan, and they are in that 3 Oaks Road corridor that's in Crystal Lake technically, but utilized by a lot of our residents, 31 and 3 Oaks. And then our favorite intersection, the US 14 and West Main, are both priority projects. Proud of this last year's accomplishment by Public Works to receive and secure a $12 million grant for a new deep well at the Cary Lake property. So that's a $12 million grant on a $12.3 million project. So most of our grants we receive are 50% maybe with a half local match, or 80% grant, 20 local match. Kalen and his team secured a grant that has a 3% local match. So that's unheard of in my much longer career than I like to admit, and I'm very pleased and proud of their efforts to get that done. Another proud project we have nearing the finish line is the new Blanicki Community Plaza in downtown Cary. That's on the side of the former depot station. That project will be finishing up this spring, and also was the result of a pretty substantial Regional Transportation Authority grant and the private donation. We're also full steam ahead on working on the design for the Alfresco Alley on Spring Street enhancements. So what you see here are some renderings that are from the preliminary design, but they're working through details that will hopefully, or will be going to bid this year and for start of construction late this year or next year. Over on the Village Hall side, we're also celebrating Public Service Recognition Week. That'll be in May as well, and that covers everything we do here, not just Village Hall. Director Simmons and his team experienced record permit issuance levels, largely because of the August 2025 windstorms. So you can see here we blew out of the water our record levels by month for sure in September through December, and I don't have it on the screen, but the first quarter of this year is, I believe, elevated. Not to this level, thankfully, but $68.4 million of construction valuation of permits in 2025 alone. Again, a lot of that with a lot of roof siding and wind damage on top of our just busier than normal 2025. Economic development-wise, we've had the new ChooseCarry.com website and marketing brochures that we utilize to recruit and retain our local businesses. We've also implemented new marketing signs on opportunity sites throughout town, so you might see the strong branding to make sure that people passing by, developers or people that might have interest in starting a project, know that those are definitely out there and who to contact. We've already had a couple leads generated directly because of the individual seeing these signs, so they are starting to work.
And the board got their pins tonight. I gave you guys all your pins. Wear them proudly.
Other economic development, we are partners with Naturally McHenry County, our destination marketing organization for the county. This year we had a new visitor center open on the Woodstock Square. That's over at the old Courthouse Center. In addition to that, a new strategic plan has been implemented, and then the slide on the right shows the highlights of the Cary specific marketing. So our $10,000 partnership has resulted in marketing, digital marketing that would have cost us almost $72,000 if we had secured that ourselves. So strong value for the dollar. We also had the Cary Uncovered Passport Challenge. You can see we had over 1,000 total check-ins to Cary businesses and recreational destinations. That partnership has also resulted in Cary being featured in the Midwest Travel Network Conference that's being hosted by McHenry County for the first time this year. The opening reception for that conference is going to be hosted in downtown Cary. So while the conference is obviously a private matter with travel writers, influencers, bloggers, people like that, the actual downtown street party is going to be piggybacked upon our own cruise night. So in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to amplify our cruise night. We're going to have live music on the brand new plaza that'll be completed, featuring the All-Stars. I happen to know a guy, so I'm glad that they're willing to partner with us and perform at the event. And then we'll have some other surprises as well. It won't be just your ordinary cruise night. But we're grateful for Naturally McHenry County for thinking of us, and we will definitely roll the red carpet out in Cary for all those travel writers from around the country. Development-wise, obviously, the Maplewood property redevelopment, which is going to be branded officially as the Cary Station development, is going through the process as we speak, with Director Simmons anticipating to receive a submittal for the zoning in the coming weeks. The Seasons at Cary project, we just went through, discussed the traffic calming on New Haven Drive. That project, as presented at the previous zoning approvals and meetings, has a 2030 completion for all the phases. And then with the Cary Station project, that also has the High Road extension that is also in the Phase 2 design stage, and that is also targeting construction to align with that redevelopment and a 2027 start to construction and completion in 2028. And this evening, we thankful we also passed that balanced budget again, or once again. And this is just a reminder. This is a slide that I think Mayor Connick refers to, and I as well frequently. Just a reminder that the value of all the services provided by the village with our balanced budget do encompass a strong value for our residents at just a little bit over 5% of your total tax bill. reminder that Main Street Fest is returning again for 2026, so look for more information in the coming months, but it will again be a 3-day event, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, September 25th through the 27th. Again, thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for partnering again with us on that. So I flew through that. Many more things have happened, but that's just kind of a snapshot for now. If there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I know it's been a long night. Thank you for your patience.
I know, thank you very much. It's outstanding representation of what we do in this building of ours. Thank you to all of our staff that wear multiple hats throughout the region. It's important that we keep up with everybody else, not up with everybody else, but we keep in touch with everybody and making sure that we're working together to make this the best that we can. So thank you very much for putting that all together. Appreciate it. That being done, we are going to move into an executive session. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss real estate, setting a price for sale, lease of property, village property, 5 Illinois CS 120/2C6, personnel, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, 5 Illinois CS 120/2C1.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will adjourn into executive session. It is 8:55 right now, and we will adjourn our village, the committee of the whole meeting from that meeting. So this concludes our public meeting.